The Commissioner of the Department of Public Safety, Sean Tindell. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Doing good this morning. How you doing, Paul?
Other than we need some cooler temperatures in here, and it looks like it's going to be like Wednesday of next week before we get some reasonable facsimile of a fall. And then we got the report yesterday that El Nino, or whatever it happens to be, means that don't look for a white Christmas this year. I'm not sure if they have white Christmas in International Falls. So that's just the changing of the earth.
Look, after last summer, I'll take anything under 90 degrees because it was hot.
You got it. You got 80 degrees is a pleasure. 85 degrees is a pleasure after what we went through. Speaking of going through, are we going to make it through some of the commercials that I've seen on in this gubernatorial election? It has been wild, but some of the material on there has been just far-fetched. I have to say that.
Oh, it's relentless, and it just keeps coming. You know, it's the gift that keeps on giving, if you want to look at it that way. But it's, look. I was sitting there with my wife, and we were watching a football game, and she just had to get up and walk away. She said, "I can't take it anymore. These ads are constant, and
yes.
it's out of control."
Well, as I said, one of the ones when the Bible hit, it's just, and you know that those ads are paid for, telling us how pro-choice or pro-life the guy is, as far as Brandon Presley. He may or he may not be. I'm not sure. I don't know him that well. I know he says he is, but then again, the ads are being paid for by a vast majority of people who are anything but pro-life.
Well, you look, he's made quite a big deal about me not having worn a badge or turned on a blue light, and therefore I'm not qualified to run the Department of Public Safety. And look, for 3 years, I've gone around this state talking to different groups, and the first thing I tell them is I'm not a law enforcement officer. That's why you don't see me wearing a badge. I don't even carry a gun because I found it's best to not pretend to be something I'm not. And, on the other end of the spectrum, you have this guy who's walking around the state trying to pretend to be something he's not. He's just not a conservative. And so, if you want to pretend to be something you're not, that's not how we do things, but that's certainly what he's doing.
But Commissioner, I'm thinking here, that might have resonated back in the Ross Barnett days. But I think people understand now. This agency is so big, it encompasses a lot of different things that an administrator is what you need. And I always give this analogy. In the hospital, very few hospitals are run by doctors. They have administrators who have a degree in law or background in business and accounting, not as a doctor. And most doctors would tell you, keep the administrator in the front office and out of the operating room. Well, so, do you think that's that big of a deal anymore? Because I think people understand it now.
Look, I don't think it's, I think you need to be an administrator. But the reality is, and what he won't acknowledge is, my career in public safety started in 2002 when I worked as an assistant DA, and I spent, the first part of my career putting murderers and rapists and drug dealers in jail. And so, I started my public safety career over 20 years ago. Working hand-in-hand with law enforcement. So it's not like I'm coming out of the blue. In fact, I found an opinion letter written to the Sun-Herald not too long ago where 8 years ago now, the DA down there, Tony Lawrence, who's now on the Court of Appeals, wrote a letter to the paper saying that I'd been committed to public safety as a state senator in my entire career. So, it's not like I'm coming in from the dark dealing with this. And I think I bring a certain skill set. And because like you said, it's a large agency. There's 1,500 people. There's 11 different divisions. We have 5 traditionally law enforcement divisions, and you've got 6 other divisions that do other things. And when you look at what's going on with driver services and the crime lab and public safety and planning, all these different agencies that need a different style of leadership, and that's what we bring to the table. And the reality is, at the end of the day, the governor nominated me for this position, and the Senate had to confirm me. I was confirmed by unanimous consent of the Senate, not one dissent. Nobody questioned my credentials to do this job. If anything, they said, thank goodness you're there because we have somebody that can do so many different things with this agency now.
Well, there's a disclaimer that begins at the beginning of this program. The views of the program are not the companies or the advertisers, it's just mine. And my opinion on this one is that I love this state. It has nothing to do with anything else, and I'll put a hand on the stack of Bibles on this one. Nothing else other than leaving this state in a situation where, and I mentioned this yesterday, there are, I think, 230, 240, around 230 or 5 or 40 boards and commissions and agencies or whatever, the appointments a governor has in his 4-year term. And if he's lucky, he gets 2 terms. And that's over 700 and some odd different people he puts in. And it's hard to get them out of there once they come in. If they're liberal judges, if they're liberal people in agencies, and they reflect that. And it does irreparable harm. It really does, as far as conservative views, decisions, and it pays off for that political ideology almost on a monthly basis, if not a daily basis. In many decisions we never hear, we never see.
Well, that's right.
So it's important. It's injecting that into the bloodstream of this state.
Absolutely, and elections have consequences, and part of that is changing the way state government works and operates by the appointments that are made to various boards and agencies. And when you look back at this history of this state, it wasn't really until Fordyce, and then you had Haley Barbour that came in, and then when I came in the state Senate in 2012, that was the first time both the Senate and the House were controlled by Republican leadership. So you really had a transitional time in government. So we've only been there for really 11 years now, where we're really starting to see the benefits of having that mindset throughout the whole state, and it's paying dividends.
That's what aggravates me a lot, Commissioner, about some of the people, even listen to this program. And I understand there are people with either a job waiting for them, an appointment waiting for them, or they just don't like conservatives, and I understand that. But we are, as far as conservative control of the state of Mississippi, in relative time with the length of this country, we're in the infancy. Only about 10, 11 years, to be honest with you, and as far as dominant control.
Well, that's right. And look, I think in the past, historically, the idea was let's just throw money at it. And, my friends in the legislature often get criticized now for not funding different parts of our agency and other agencies. And what I have found is if I take the time to put out a plan and say, this is how I think we can make driver services better, this is how we can make the crime line better, this is how we can make highway patrol better, and this is what we need, I bring them a plan. If I can articulate how it can benefit the state, they'll provide the funding. But they're not going to just throw the cash at these agencies. And that's what agency heads and other parts of state government need to realize. You need to bring a plan to the legislature and say, we think this is how we can make it better, and they'll sit down with you and talk through it. And if you can come to an agreement, they're going to fund it.
Well, and also if you want to see the other side, how it works by throwing money at those who just to placate those who don't pay taxes, then just look at the city of Jackson or any big Democrat city now in the nation and see exactly where they're going with that format. Well, look,
I've gone on record saying that I think politics is best left out of public safety, and it works best when it's that way. And the reality is there's one party that continues to throw politics into public safety, and it's the Democratic Party. And you look at their failed policies in Detroit, San Francisco, New York, defund the police. They want to end qualified immunity. They want to end cash bail. They just want to let anybody that gets arrested get out. And so when they bring their politics into public safety, these cities become rampant with crime, drugs, homelessness, and it's happened again and again and again in their failed policies. And so the reality is, again, the only kind of politics that's ever been brought into public safety from the Republican standpoint that I've heard from my boss and from legislators is do your job, make our community safe.
And it's so hard to change that, even when you try to help. Case in point is the Capitol complex. Even when the benefits are going to be for the people that need it the most, you come up against that liberal leadership, and it is tough and aggravating and frustrating. Another segment here with Sean Tindell, Commissioner of the Mississippi Department of Public Safety. With the Commissioner of the Department of Public Safety, Sean Tindell. One question here, please ask him if they are having any car driving tests for new drivers again.
That is on our legislative agenda for this year. We've had some preliminary meetings with some of the legislators about bringing back mandatory driver's education programs. One of the things that we spend a lot of time focusing on over the last couple of years is school safety when it comes to firearms in schools and active shooter situations. But the reality is we lose far more teenagers every year to fatal accidents we do school shooters. So I think it's time that we bring back mandatory driver's education for our teenagers, as well as if you're coming from somewhere else and you need to get a license for the first time, make you take a driver's education course before you get your license.
Just inquisitive about this. Since the days when we dropped the inspection sticker, has that ever been some buzz there to bring it back, or has there been a problem, or is on the other side of it, it was not needed, and its absence proves that? What, you guys ever talk about that?
I've talked a little bit about it with our administration. In fact, I met with the Troopers Association last week, and it was one of the things that we discussed adding to the legislative agenda is maybe not bringing back inspection stickers, but broadening the enforcement of and penalties for operating a vehicle in an unsafe manner or in a safe condition, because all you have to do is ride around and realize there's a lot of unsafe cars being used on the interstates and highways and roads.
Listen, I saw one the other day, and I thought, there's no way that you can see out that windshield. There is no way. I guess a highway patrolman could have written a ticket for that.
I think they can, and there's certain laws, but I think we need to broaden them and make it a little bit of a more stiff penalty based upon we don't have the inspection stickers anymore, so nobody's really looking at these vehicles and they're getting out on our roadways. And I've seen some with duct tape and bungee cords holding the fenders on, and so I think it's a point where we need to do something about it.
Just since I've got you here, what's the update or the status as far as the new headquarters?
That's going great. We should be in next year. We've also started clearing land for the Troop G substation. We're looking at a piece of property to add a medical examiner's office in North Mississippi, so we'll be able to conduct autopsies and put a doctor up there to help with our medical examinations and autopsies in that part of the state. So we've got a lot going on. We've really broadened our capital projects with the headquarters and again with the station in Starkville and this potential medical examiner's office in North Mississippi.
Please do something with LED lights. 662. God, geez, I have no idea. Are these factory made, or are they coming put in aftermarket?
I think it's a variety. I think most of the cars now are coming with some form of LED lights, but some of them, my gosh, I'll have them come up in my rearview mirror and blind me. So I think that's something we need to address.
Ask the commissioner about tent laws. Can you receive a ticket for a solely illegal tent?
Yes.
And I think that's still on the books.
Yes, it is. You can go to a doctor and get a waiver, and that will allow you to get a darker tent if it's for a medical purpose. But other than that, you have to abide by our tent laws, and there's a measurement that they do when they put it on there.
I bought a truck several years ago, and it has it on there. It was, and I'm always worried about it. But number one, if you're ever stopped and you have your windows are tinted, just roll them all down, and because an officer, he or she needs to see what's going on.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Only a couple of seconds left here, so anything else you want to mention?
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about the medical examiner's office. There was a recent article that came out from the AP criticizing and questioning our stats on the backlog, and so we went and pulled them, and it just shows you the coordinated effort with the liberal media from across the country when they come in and they start attacking even the good work that you're doing. The reality is when Governor Reeves came into office, there was a backlog of autopsy reports that had not been completed going back to 2010. There was over 2,230 autopsy reports that had not been done. As of yesterday, all but 15 of those have been completed. So when I say we eliminated a decade worth of backlog at the medical examiner's office, we did, and that's absolutely true.
And they're criticizing that?
Oh yeah. They're saying that we're misleading and that those aren't the numbers and that there's still delays of over 90 days, which there are. Sometimes we do take longer than 90 days because we're continuing to recruit new medical examiners to come to our state to help with that backlog. But the reality is the reduction in the standing backlog is over 90%. And it's a real success story, and I want to brag on our medical examiners team, and it really ticks me off when they start to question the work that these fine individuals at the Department of Public Safety are doing each and every day to make our state safer.
If you have the numbers, the backlog was at 2,230, and it's now 15.
That was from the decade previous to the Governor Reeves administration. The standing backlog was 2,213. Now,
13,
the standing backlog, I think, is at 156. So it's a 92% reduction in the standing backlog.
Well, it's journalism today, isn't it?
It's unfortunate, and it was clearly a hit piece. They called our office at 4:30 on Friday and ran the story Monday morning. So, and then said we didn't comment. I mean, it's just ridiculous. But I guess that's where we are. It's a coordinated effort.
Well, it's why the second number on the phone call in most of these liberal newspapers, so-called newspapers, is aligned to the DNC. So you expect the expected in that particular case. Look. For as long as we've been doing this, two things as far as your agency is concerned and your predecessors. We've always had this backlog. Whenever we had anybody on from the Department of Public Safety, the two things that rankle the people of this state the most, and nothing was ever done, was in the medical examiner, and the other one is the driver's license. And both of those things, in just the short time you've been in there, have made major improvements.
The average wait time at a driver's service station went from 3 hours to 15 minutes now. And so, again, it's not me. It's the fine work of the men and women of the Department of Public Safety that work tirelessly. And if you want to attack me, there's plenty of things to attack. But don't attack the work that these men and women do at our agency.
Well, if you got some money from Dickie Scruggs and people up north, and you have a good advertising agency, you can shape that in a different narrative. Any final thoughts, sir?
Well, fortunately, I didn't get my ethics lessons from Dickie Scruggs.
What a name. I'd love to communicate with him, but he blocked me, so I can't get a message through to him. Sean, thank you, sir. Appreciate it very, very much, as always.
Thank y'all. We appreciate the opportunity to come on here, and thank you for all you do for our state.